In the last few decades, the effects of burning fossil fuels on the environment have been increasingly well understood. But have you ever stopped to consider how climate change might affect the smell, taste, or even nutrition of the food that you eat? The majority of the food that we eat is produced by plants that have been bred for thousands of years to thrive in very specific environments. But as those environments change, so do the crops that we rely on. As we continue to burn fossil fuels, carbon dioxide is being returned to the atmosphere, trapping heat from the sun and warming the planet. Slightly warmer temperatures can be a good thing for plants as they increase the rate of plant development, but very high temperatures can dramatically reduce yields. Higher temperatures also increase the water requirements of crops, as crops use water to cool themselves down, removing water from the soil and increasing the severity of drought. These severe droughts put pressures on growers to increase their irrigation volumes. Now, fresh water is already becoming a scarce resource, and this is only going to increase competition for fresh water further. It's important to remember that global warming is not the only aspect of climate change that's relevant to our food systems. Carbon dioxide is an essential ingredient for photosynthesis, so its increasing concentration in the atmosphere is likely to benefit plant growth. It's reasonably well understood how factors like heat, drought, and carbon dioxide concentration might affect important crop species on their own, but it's less well understood how these environmental changes will interact with each other and the complex biology of plants to affect the yield, flavour and nutrition of the crops that we eat. That's why researchers here at the University of Reading are trying to understand how a range of possible climate scenarios might affect an important group of crops, the brassicas, by doing a bit of what they like to call rocket science.
So my project is looking at the impact that elevated carbon dioxide concentrations and elevated temperatures will have on the nutritional and sensory properties of salad rocket. I've been growing the salad rocket in controlled environment chambers here at the Crop and Environment Laboratory at Reading University. Growing in controlled chambers allows you to control parameters such as light, relative humidity, day length, temperature and carbon dioxide concentration. So I harvest the salad rocket after 30 days and take some fresh samples for volatile analysis, so looking at the volatile organic compounds that are released that might impact the flavour. So the remaining samples are freeze dried and then they're milled. That's the stage I'm at the moment. I'll then do a metabolite analysis, so looking at sugars, amino acids, vitamin C, the glucosinolates and their hydrolysis products, isothiocyanates. They are partially responsible for the bitter, pungent flavour that rocket has.
This is essential information for plant breeders, as they can select varieties based on the display of desirable traits under combinations of higher temperatures and increased CO2 concentrations. What it doesn't tell us anything about is how crops like rocket might taste in the future, as taste is a highly subjective neurological process that can only be measured with human subjects on sensory panels.
So a sensory panel is an expert panel of trained sensory analysts who use a set of defined descriptors. They're associated with specific attributes such as taste or aroma or mouthfeel. It's an objective measure of like sensory perceptions and how these sensory attributes like interact with each other to give you an overall score for each product. So you wouldn't necessarily get this from individual measurements of sugar or glucosinolates. I haven't actually tasted any of the rocket that I've grown yet because I didn't want to damage any of the leaves, because that can impact the levels of the different compounds in the leaves, particularly glucosinolates. And I wanted the leaf material available for analysis. But going forward, when we've grown the rocket for the sensory panel to try, I'm looking forward to trying it then.
Rocket production is unlikely to be wiped out by climate change, but thanks to the work of researchers like Kathryn, plant breeders and farmers can start to prepare themselves now for a less uncertain future. Varieties that thrive under higher temperatures and increased carbon dioxide concentrations can be selected for breeding as soon as the results of these experiments are in. And that means that growers and plant breeders can start building up stocks of climate change resistant varieties now to ensure that supplies stay high enough to keep prices low and consumers happy. Importantly, this research goes beyond merely looking for varieties that will grow well under future climate scenarios, and uniquely investigates the nutritional and sensory properties of rocket under these conditions. Now, this is an area of crop science that for some unknown reason is often overlooked, but is absolutely essential to ensure that we can continue to grow and enjoy rocket for generations to come.